The Class 8 planet. Ridiculous. What were they thinking? Half a sun part later, Pethiest was still annoyed. No one's going to just have a Class 8 template lying around, there's no market for that. A total waste of credits. He was drumming his fingertips on the counter again, without thinking about it. Not even those other planet sculptors. He paused. Blinked. 2 planet sculptors setting up shop on the same station was highly unusual, now that he thought about it. Since the service was in low enough demand that breaking into the market alongside an established sculptor was next to impossible. Either the newcomers were naive fools about to bankrupt themselves, or they had something up their exodermal plating that they thought would let them beat out planetary engineering on its home turf. Either way, it might be worth checking in on them to gauge the competition. Grabbing his tablet again, he searched for the other company and pulled up their records. Name, Terraforma. Strange name. Possibly one of those alien names that were humorous in their own language, but didn't translate well. He hated that kind of name. Proprietor species. Human. Not a species he recognized. Their home planet must be on the other end of the galactic arm. Let's see. Fairly close, listed environmental parameters close enough that I wouldn't have to wear a protection suit. He glanced at the chrono on the counter. And no one likely to stop in before the end of my shift. Well then, I think some industrial espionage might brighten my sun cycle. A few taps on his tablet to close down the storefront, a quick stop in the back room to remove his name tag and change out of his uniform, and he was off. Welcome to Terraforma. Please input your name, species, and home planet, the screen next to the Terraforma entrance stated. So Pethiest input the relevant information and waited in front of the door. After a moment the door chimed and slid open, and a trail of tiny glowing dots on the wall indicated that he should follow them in and to the right. He stumbled slightly as he crossed the threshold, the gravity adjusted to Mermido's 4 standard, and the lights tinted more blue to mimic the sunlight back home. Impressive. They've even increased the oxygen content to match. They must be doing well if they can afford adaptive environment systems in a branch office like this, he mused as he followed the light trail. The lights ended up in a small office, with a brown, furry, and somewhat squishy-looking being on the other side of a desk. This was probably one of the humans mentioned in the directory. It looked uncomfortably like a mermarch pried out of its exoskeleton, deprived of its lower arms, and left out to burn in the sun. He tilted his antennae in greetings and sat down in the nearby chair, which he noted was an adjustable model already set to accommodate mermarch physiology. They really took their customer service seriously around here.
Thanks for choosing Terraforma for all your terraforming needs.
A human said with bared teeth and the practiced ease of rote repetition in its voice, the translator sounding out a few foreign terms phonetically in Mermese.
I'm Amanda Popova, senior designer and lead architect for this branch. So, Mr. Pethiest, what can I do for you today? Got a new planet, burning a hole in your pocket, that you need terraformed.
Pethiest pondered the unfamiliar colloquialisms for a moment, then forged ahead with the cover story he'd prepared on his way over. No, I have no need of planet sculpting for myself. I am an intermediary purchasing agent here on behalf of several smaller clients. I was hoping to determine whether you would be able to service their needs.
Sounds good to me. Let us run through what you have and I'll see what I can do. What is the first client looking for?
Amanda agreed, tapping a few buttons on her computer. Pethiest pulled out his own tablet, navigated to the list of all the recent clients whose requests Planetary Engineering Incorporated had been unable to fulfill, and chose a promising one. My first client is a Rockin' from a Class 5 Beta Omega planet. She is the head of a new colony expedition and wishes to sculpt the destination planet to match her homeworld. The class 5 would be a good test. If the human was concerned about the high class, it would certainly be unable to fulfill most of the failed requests he had received. And terraforma would be no threat to planetary engineering. If it had the ability to research such a planet with ease, it likely hailed from a planet of higher than class 4, which would be cause for further investigation. Amanda brought up an entry for Rakishan on her computer and swiveled the screen so he could see.
Lowercase beta and lowercase omega, right?
She asked rhetorically, indicating the subclass letters for the planet.
Temperatures a few standard deviations above normal, and a slightly hotter climate. I see. Alright, how about our Athens template?
She tapped a few more keys, and a template description appeared on the screen next to the Rakishan entry. The display format was unfamiliar to Pythias, but he quickly grasped that it was using colored bars in place of circles of different brightness to describe the parameters. Once he grasped their relative scales, it was all he could do to not clench his mandibles in shock. How could this be? Not only did the human show no concern over working with a class 5 world, but it already had a standard template that was a match for such a world within one standard margin. No planet sculptor bothered with the research for such a high-class planet, not unless it had already been commissioned, and such a close match in a standard template was unheard of. Yes, that will do quite nicely, he replied, projecting satisfaction as best he could. I will be sure to let my client know. Actually, I happen to have another client from a class 5 world, he said, opening another order. A 5 beta sigma, specifically. What would you estimate the research cost for such a project would be?
Class 5, high temperature, high salinity. Is that planet primarily water, or mostly land with some bodies of water, or?
The human asked. He checked his tablet. The second. Travag is a largely arid world with infrequent large oases. The human furrowed its brow as it searched for that planet on its computer, and Pythias suppressed a gleeful antenna twitch. Ah, a sign of concern. Good, he thought with satisfaction. A feeling which promptly vanished when Amanda bared its teeth again and said,
Perfect, then our Dead Sea template should work great.
Another set of entries came up on the display, Travag on the left, the human's template on the right. What? No. Surely this must be a mistake. A planet whose every body of water contained sufficient mineral content to kill a good 1/8 of all concordant species if they accidentally swallowed some. And the human just happened to have a planet template to match it. Absurd. Yes, that will do, he said curtly, hoping his frustrated tone wouldn't translate. He looked down at his tablet and flipped past the next few orders he had been planning to use, eventually stopping on the Jui request he'd received earlier that sun cycle. Ah, yes. How appropriate. My third client requested a Class 8 planet, he stated confidently. Surely it will not have any research for this one.
A Class 8, you say? Which planet?
No particular planet. This client wished to create a prison colony, so they did not have any specific requests, as long as it was lethal to escapees.
Oh. A custom job. Haven't gotten one of those in a while.
To Pythias' dismay, Amanda didn't even blink at the class designation. Any one of the worlds in that class would most likely kill him in less than a moon cycle if he tried to do any biome research there, yet she, probably a female if he remembered his mammal biology correctly, seemed downright gleeful at the prospect.